Hi everyone, this is Sam with Wine News in 5. As far as site news this week, our team is uploading Burgundy reviews to our database as fast as their fingers will allow. Do check in if you're in need of recommendations for the currently offered 2024 vintage. We've also updated our forum, making it cleaner and more inviting looking and vastly easier to find all the excellent information in there. If you haven't checked out our forum, please do. This is where you can ask us and your fellow members for wine advice, pairing suggestions, wine travel tips, or anything having to do with wine. In terms of global news, today I'll discuss fires in South Africa, Australia, and Argentina, Facebook's arbitrary restriction on alcohol-related accounts, France's restriction of copper fungicides, and the 2025 State of the U.S. Wine Industry Report from Silicon Valley Bank. First up, fires in South Africa. Over 100,000 hectares in South Africa's Western Cape have burned since December 2025. The Eastern Cape has also been affected, primarily in the Kuga municipality. There have been no fatalities, but thousands of people have been evacuated. Anton Bredell, Western Cape Minister for Local Government, Environmental Affairs, and Development Planning, has announced that the province has overshot its aerial firefighting budget for the season and is having to make internal adjustments to keep helicopters in the air. Bredell has requested disaster classification from the provincial cabinet to strengthen his ability to respond to the situation. In terms of wine regions affected, the list is long. Stellenbosch, Paarl, Franschhoek, Overberg, Walker Bay, and Cape Agulhas have been affected. In Franschhoek, Chamonix Wine Estate was destroyed. In Paarl, Avondale Wine Estate's vineyards burned. Strandveld Vineyards between Cape Agulhas and Elim fought fires on their property. On to fires in Australia. Wildfires in Victoria, Australia have consumed 400,000 hectares and killed one person in the last week. Fires began in the midst of an extreme heat wave on Wednesday, January 7th, and on January 8th, Matt Fowles of Fowles Wine in the Strathbogie Ranges, northeast of Melbourne, lost 567 hectares, 121 hectares of which were vines, 3 houses, 5 sheds, and hundreds of sheep in 45 minutes. His neighbor, Grant Teresh of Elgo Estates Wines, lost nearly 750 hectares. A bit over 100 kilometers away, a cool store in Harcourt, which held stock and equipment for 20 wineries, went up in flames, destroying 250,000 bottles of wine. Maison Laplou and Medeni Vermouth lost all stock and equipment. Gilgrave's Vineyard lost 97% of their stock. Next, fires in Argentina. On January 5th, fires began in Patagonia's Chubut province. The fires have since consumed 12,000 hectares and spread to Neuquén. One of the largest fires is believed to have been set by arsonists. I've not heard reports of affected wineries. On to Facebook's arbitrary restriction on alcohol-related accounts. The spirits business reports that last week, thousands of wine, beer, and spirits producers, alcohol retailers, wine media and events pages, wine education platforms, restaurants and bars received emails and/or Facebook notifications saying that their pages would no longer be recommended to users. It seems that AI content auditing software flagged the pages for going against community guidelines, but there have been no recent changes regarding alcohol under Facebook's restricted goods and services page or under its advertising standards, which would explain this restriction. Meta has not issued a statement or made any attempt to rectify the problem. Next, France's restriction of copper fungicides. Copper, which is toxic to the soil microbiome, is nonetheless the most widely used, effective, and least costly treatment for downy mildew, and it's one of the only treatments approved for organic viticulture. As I discussed in this newscast in September of last year, the French Agency for Food, Environmental, and Occupational Health and Safety declined to renew marketing authorization for 20 out of 22 copper-containing fungicides that applied in 2025. As of the beginning of this year, wine producers are no longer able to purchase those 20 products. With diminishing options available for organic treatment of downy mildew, it was welcome news that Mevalon, a biofungicide containing the active compounds thymol from thyme, geranol from damask rose, and eugenol from clove oil, which was a product previously approved for treatment of botrytis bunch rot, was approved on January 8th as a treatment for downy mildew. It is the only biofungicide I've heard of for treatment of downy mildew. If you know of others, please drop them in the comments. Finally, the 2025 State of the U.S. Wine Industry Report from Silicon Valley Bank. On January 15th, SVB released its State of the U.S. Wine Industry Report. There's always a ton of information in this report. I really encourage you to go read it in full, but a few things that stood out to me were that the report highlighted a drop in sales of 6.9 million cases year on year, from 335.9 million cases in 2024 to 329 million cases in 2025, and a drop in revenue of 1.2 billion, from 75.5 billion in 2024 to 74.3 billion in 2025. This is a 2% contraction in volume and a 1.6% contraction in value. Direct-to-consumer sales, DTC sales, continued to drive revenue for U.S. wineries and account for an average of 68% of revenue for most major wine regions. Wines priced under $20 continue to see weak sales. The price brackets of $20 to $29 and over $100 showed modest growth. Finally, this report mentions RNDC, previously one of the U.S.'s largest wine distributors, and the impact of its exit from California on wineries who relied on the company for distribution in the state. On Tuesday, January 13th, information leaked to VinePair detailed negotiations regarding the sale of RNDC's Florida, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, South Carolina, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. operations to Reyes Beverage Group. This is likely to cause further market upset. That's all for this episode of Wine News. If you enjoy this newscast and you'd like to see it continue, please become a member of jancisrobinson.com. And if you have breaking news in your area, please email me at news@jancisrobinson.com.